Okay, how are we going? We're going good. Do you ever think a bear is cute? A raging bear in your property? Is that cute? I don't know. Looks really funny in the camera. Good morning. Hello. My name is Sebastian. Today we are working on a gate. So back in the corner behind this tree is a little fence. You can see the fence just over here. And there's a little gate that I'm going to be putting in. Well, it's actually kind of a big gate. It's going to take a bit of weight. So anyway, on to it. How are we doing? We're good. We're good. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Feels like I should have done something else. Welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me. Sorry, I actually missed a week last week because I was a little sick. In fact, I was sick for 2 weeks. Missed a family reunion, missed a meetup with some friends, but now I'm 100% minus about 3%, and we're into a new project. This week we're working on a gate. So let's not muck around, let's get right to it. We have to dig a hole here. We're going to have to make it fairly big. We want to go about 300 by 300. This is going to be a 100 by 100 pole post. Got cats. A lot of cats around here. They're all sniffing. I think that one's Jack. Hello, pal. Having a bit of a sniff. Trying to work out, what are these things? Sniff, sniff. So yes, a 300 hole. And we want this post to be in line with this, but not take out this tree. They don't mind losing this branch here. Now I want to get it about 600 deep millimeters, depending on how tough the soil is. It's topsoil, but underneath I don't think it's clay. So we could be able to get quite deep here. So anyway, and off we go with this digging. Obviously I'm using a few tools here, using the mattock which I used in the previous build, using the little axe thing. The axe thing didn't really work, but the mattock did. It's very good for being able to push down. There's not a lot of space where I'm working, and I have to keep going, standing up and then kneeling down, standing up. Halfway there. Halfway there. And you can see that I'm kneeling down on some bricks. Pal being Superman, Pal being Spider-Man. I'm kneeling down on some bricks, and this is not ideal. It can get quite painful. I had to dig through some of the root system in the trees. You can see a few of them there, and a little bit later on I actually have to cut through some of them. I was a bit worried that I was going to ruin the tree, but there was kind of no other way around it. And I'm aiming for that 600 mil, which is 60 centimeters. In order for me to see all the way down to the bottom of the hole, I had to increase the exposure. You can see how that mattock works. It does quite a good job to be able to get all the way down. And I am constantly measuring because I obviously don't want to do too much work, but the real problem is the hole getting wider or bigger because you're going to have to fill it with concrete. So you do need a bit of space to get the tool in. Pal just having a bit of a look. He's a very gorgeous cat. And now I'm resorting to hand digging. A lot of the loose stuff is obviously quite hard to get with either a shovel and the mattock can't pick anything up. It's really just to smash what's down there. And it was fairly dry. There was a little bit of moisture there, but not too much. There wasn't a lot of clay. It was very, very loose soil, so it didn't take long to dig out. I probably should have had a small shovel or a small hand shovel, like a garden trowel. That can be quite helpful to shape in and around it. And again, trying not to make sure the bore of the hole is too big. Pal was so eager to help. He wanted to get down in there and start helping digging. But it was too much labour for him. He wanted to sleep or watch. Every time I see Pal, I just fall in love with him. He's such a cute cat. He's got this little moustache. Back to the digging, trying the small trenching shovel. That didn't quite help, but I could have used the trenching shovel for clearing a little bit better. You dig a little bit of the sides and then all of that falls in the hole. And because, again, don't have a lot of space there, I did find myself digging by hand a fair amount. If I did this differently, I probably would have put down something so I could kneel on. Having a small garden trowel, I probably would have gotten through it quicker. I didn't grab one because I thought it would have a lot of clay and that would be very hard to dig out with a trowel. The mattock is really good for getting that clay out. This is me trying to cut away some of those roots. A lot of them were getting in the way, especially where the two branches are that you can see coming out of the ground, or the two trees. There was a root coming directly off it, so I had to cut through that root because it was right in line with where the pole was going to go. Best way to do that is to sit on my bum. If I wasn't wearing fluoro, the neighbours would have been a bit worried. Maybe the client would have probably been more worried. And I also had to try and dig around it because the saw kept on hitting all the soil. Well, it's not too bad. I've got obviously music playing in my ears and I'm just kind of focused on what I'm doing. But I did start getting sore knees. Actually led me to find a little pad to start kneeling on. Now I've brought out the post hole borer, and this is good for when you can't get down with your arm too far up to be able to pick up the soil. So you can push it down into the ground, pull out the handles, and then basically scoop out dirt. And then I'm done. I've got it to depth. Okay, well, that hole is now dug. Well, it's a hole, doesn't have a name. It has a brick in it, and it is 400 mils to the ground level, which will be 1/3 of the pole size. But it also has 100 mils of a brick, and then of course the concrete's going to go in and around. The brick is in there to separate the concrete from the dirt that's underneath the pole. The pole will be covered with some poopies. Come on. Oh, you see another cat. What are you doing, Poops? Cat's seen someone. Seen another cat. And the cat's had a bit of a chase. And I went for lunch. Back from lunch, and I've got concrete and post. So I started carrying these 20 kg bags of cement. Well, I made the mistake of trying to take two. I was like, no, I'm going to hurt myself if I do that. And then I put on these gloves, which are brand new, and they're too slippery. So I'm going to take the gloves off. But no, it's fine. It's a good workout. Pal skiving off work again. Not too sure whether you can see this or here, but basically the idea is I'm going to have one on either side, and this is going to be kind of like rebar. Kind of like that, and like that. Probably wondering why I've chosen to put these bolts into the pole. The ground was quite soft, and I started thinking, well, concrete is going to get a fair amount of water in it if it rains in the next couple of days. And I kind of don't want the post moving while the concrete is setting, even though I have braces. Well, I'm going to be putting braces on there. So my idea was to put a couple of these bolts in the side so it kind of locks in to the concrete. It'll also be a lot more stable as well. Because I didn't quite get to 600. I mean, I did, and I got the extra brick on the bottom there, but because the ground's uneven, I thought, well, I'll give it a little bit more strength in any particular direction, forward, backwards, or left and right. So I ended up putting a third one in there as I'm about to set the post in place. Now I'm essentially trying to set the post level and plumb. Level, well, I can't really set it level. I've just got to get it as straight and as plumb as I can. This is a little tricky. Some people put the concrete in first and then make sure the post is level and then set their braces up, and other people set the braces up so that the post is, you know, in a level, a plumb orientation, and then put the concrete in. My experience is that because I'm using Fastcrete, which is actually quite a fast setting cement, by the time I've filled the hole up with cement, it's very difficult to move the post to get it level. In this particular scenario, you'll see at the end that I could actually move it quite a lot, and I was correct in putting those bolts in because that actually ended up giving it a lot of stability. But it also meant that when I was putting the concrete in, I kept on hitting those barbs and unfortunately sort of knocking it out of plumb. But I did take my time to try and get it plumb. I ended up screwing in a couple of boards. I ended up taking some out and then moving them because I realized they might be in the wrong place. And then I got straight into opening these bags of concrete. Now I've made a couple of mistakes here. For some reason I didn't have my knife. I couldn't find it. And so I was using the saw. And that was dumb because it meant that I had a ragged line and it was quite hard to pull all of the concrete out. But the biggest mistake I made here is that I didn't have a mask. It's vitally important that when I was doing this, I should have had a mask. And I should have had a mask. I did actually have one, but unfortunately it was in a box that I left in the workshop. After a little while, the client came home and I asked them, did they have some sort of mask? I did actually get a mask. It wasn't N95, but it was better than nothing. You can also see me there kneeling on a garden pad. That's just to save my knees from a horrible experience on those bricks. And then obviously I empty one bag, get a bit of water going, get the drill. And the drill has, oh, I found it the other day. And I'll probably put it away again. With the drill, I mix in the concrete. It is, like I said before, pretty tricky because there's barbs coming out of the post. And now I've got a couple of levels of concrete. So the only way to really get the mixing unit all the way down is to make sure it's a bit wet. And it was wet. I generally find this type of thing, the Fastcrete, it's better to have it wet rather than dry, but the consistency is still a little bit like pudding. And when you get the consistency right, you can generally tell because by the time you kind of tap down on the concrete, you can smooth it out fairly well. If it's too dry, that's nearly impossible to do. It has little like bumps in it. And if it's too wet, you just have sitting water on the top. And of course, if you have too much sitting water on there, it's not going to be too bad, but it'll slow down the drying and it can weaken the concrete depending on the type of concrete. Then I put one of the bricks in place because I had to remove a brick that was a part of the path. Now I did actually have to come back here the following day, I think it was the following day, and literally cut out some of that concrete to make sure the bricks fitted in. You can see me there moving the post, and that's because it is partly wet and because I kept on knocking it and it came out a plumb. And then Pal decided to inspect my work. He scored me. He said my professionalism, I got a 3 out of 5. He said that overall he would use me again. But of course I asked Pal if he wanted to join the team and he said yes. So he's now a part of our team. Although he never comes to work. He just stays at home, sleeping all the time. And that is it for this week. We've got the concrete in and the post. If you're ever wondering why I take a little bit longer, I tend to not want to jam like an entire project in one video. As a viewer, a person who watches YouTube, I enjoy watching these types of videos and I enjoy people talking about what they're doing. I come from an industry where you tend to try and show rather than tell, and YouTube gives me the opportunity to do a bit of both. So my weekly videos are generally a couple of days worth of work. This was one day. I was thinking about putting on another day because I actually was at this job 4 days, but I've actually just decided to break it up a little bit more. It's more easier to digest as a viewer. But if you feel differently, just leave a comment below. I would love to hear what you think about the format of these videos. And if there's anything else that you want me to cover, be it my method, tools, let me know in the comments below. Next week we are going to move on to the gate part of the project. And with a little bit of help. Thank you very much for joining me. Sorry I missed out last week, but I will try to make it up. I've got a few more coming up and I might be able to get 2 out in 1 week. We'll see how we go. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this week's video. Leave a like, subscribe, and we will see you next week.